Welcome back to the Kildrummy CostCasts. In this initial series, we've decided to speak about spreadsheets being used for cost management and the risks that can portray inside of our projects, as opposed to using a professional cost management system. In the initial 3 sessions, we looked at commonality, how a system can be used and deployed commonly across multiple projects. Then we looked at continuity and consistency, so in terms of deliverables, in terms of usage of the system, etc. And in the last session we talked about scalability, being able to use the same system that can be deployed across multiple scales of projects. In today's session we're going to look at security. So clearly in today's world of globally deployed projects, we need to make sure that we can control access in the correct way. And that access also needs to be controlled in terms of internal access, dependent upon the initial user's role and that initial user's capabilities, but also external access in terms of, do we want to allow contractors to have access in order to update information? And do we want to allow suppliers to have access, perhaps updating delivery information or expediting information on a capital project? So those sorts of access situations are very, very difficult to manage when you're using spreadsheets. However, using a professional cost management system, it's something that we do in Kildrummy Cost Management as a standard. So when we think about security of information and security of data, we clearly have a massive volume of information when we look at these projects that we're talking about managing. And we talked about the volumes and data volumes in the earlier episodes. But how do we best manage the access, the ability to view, update, and recreate information that is applicable to specific users, specific disciplines, specific organizations, or even specific suppliers or contractors? We need to create a solution that is secure in order that allows us to have global deployment and global usage and global access, but controlled in a way that is bubble wrapped, let's say, with a security wrap that goes around each user and each person's access. So now let's look in more detail as how we really do manage security as opposed to the open access with spreadsheets compared to managing security of data on our project critical information in a professional cost management solution. So clearly data access, as I've mentioned, is one of the key things. These projects are globally deployed. Specifically when we look at the capital side of things, there are suppliers from multiple regions, there could be prefabrication yards in multiple locations, etc. All of these integrations and all of these touch points create different levels of data that need to be managed in different ways. And that data access, both internal and external, we need to control. So when we talk about the internal aspect, then it depends upon disciplines, it depends upon responsibilities within a WBS. We may have specific cost controllers and cost managers for specific areas. So therefore we need to ensure that the security data wrap is correct around that specific user and that specific role. Externally, we want to create efficiency by allowing external users to create information and update information for us. So for example, expediting information or contractor progress or contractor timesheeting. We want them to be able to have access to update that information for us to, again, coming back to previous sessions, avoid rekeying. But we need to do that in a secure way. So doing that within a spreadsheet can be extremely challenging, if not impossible. But we will look at how we address that with Kildrummy Cost Management Solutions a little bit later. Moving on to, well, actually, is the data secure in a spreadsheet? Is the data that is within that spreadsheet in terms of commitment rates, commitment values, forecasts against a base commitment? Is that information really secure? So for example, if we have rate information against a specific discipline or a specific craft, that should be respected, that should be kept confidential. That can be very difficult to do in a calculated spreadsheet with embedded macros and embedded calculations. In addition to that, there's very difficult methodologies in order to allow an external party to have access to a spreadsheet in order to update information when we're trying to protect this data security and this data confidentiality. So how best can we address that? How can we create a situation where we have a consistent solution that allows us to have both internally security wrapped access as well as externally security wrapped access, but be able to have those people all be able to interact in a similar solution in a secure, globally deployed, web-based environment? So let's take a look at how we address that using Kildrummy Cost Management. So when we talk about actually controlling information, controlling access, and being able to respect confidentiality of the data, the way that Kildrummy Cost Management software manages that is linked to what we talked about before in the commonality with the workflows. So being able to control a user's access with the workflow, but then combining that with the security access of the specific user and what they intend to do. So if we look in the admin area and we look at users, each user is defined a group. That group has certain levels of access and update ability and changeability. And again, if we then move from just the users to the groups, just in one example, I'm logged in as a super user, which is why you've been able to see everything. But here, this is really the control engine of security. We can control who can update certain things in certain areas, who can run batches, who can run different types of edits and updates, total control down to the workflow level. And this is where we differentiate ourselves in that it's driven by the workflow that your team need to support. So therefore we can create a structure around security of information that is linked to your workflow and therefore linked to your user's user profile. I can click save here and I can move away from that, and knowing that I have controlled the security access for that user, for that domain, for that role. So clearly we've seen there the differentiation between trying to create a secure environment in a spreadsheet as opposed to doing so in a professional cost management system whereby we can control access, updatability, and control down to the WBS level, to the user level, and even down to the finite data level. In the next session we will look at improvability. So how can we learn from previous projects? How can we take the lessons learned from that previous project and ensure that we move that information into Project B, Project C, and Project X as we move forward? The ability to learn from previous projects, take the positive messages and delete the less positive messages as we move forward for future projects. But for now, for security, I thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to joining you on the next session on improvability. Thank you very much.